Robert, welcome to the Retail Whore Podcast.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks for inviting me.
I personally am super excited you're here because, one, I love your brand. I also have bought your brand for several of my retailers because I'm a merchandiser by trade. I work in wholesale gift showrooms, but I also work with a lot of retailers and do their buying. And your California Bear is still my favorite product.
Great. I love hearing that. That actually is a vintage piece of art. It was originally done for the sheet music cover of our state song, I Love You, California.
Really?
Way back in 1913, I think it was. I had original sheet music covers here someplace. I wish I remembered where it is. I could show you what it was. But yeah, it was just used on the sheet music cover. And I've done research to see if I can't give credit to the original artist. And I think it's a lot like so many graphic artists today. You do work, you get paid for it, and you don't really get credit for it.
Yeah.
But I wish I knew who that was, because whoever the artist was, I think really created something special and unique. And I love that it's a part of our California history. And we're able to kind of celebrate that on a lot of our products.
How did you acquire that? And do you need a copyright for that to use it?
Well, unfortunately, no. It is in the public domain. So the original piece of art is it's just a black and white piece of art. And what we did was we redrew it so that we have our own version of it, and then colored it so that our version is brown with a gold state to it. And so we've tried to kind of put our own spin and our own piece of art on that original piece.
Love that. Interesting. So before we get into it, we've already getting deeper. Give everybody an introduction to yourself and a little bit of background in the brand that you have created.
Sure. I am Robert Emmons. I'm the owner of San Francisco Mercantile. We have a wholesale line featuring products that celebrate San Francisco and California. Mostly, it's all about, celebrating place, your sense of place, whether, it's the place that you live and love and are proud of, or that place that you go visit and you want to take something home to remind you of that great trip. I also have 3 retail stores. San Francisco Mercantile is one of them. That store features our line mixed with about 150 local artists and makers. So
Wow.
We try to keep that one very local and specific. My feeling is that when we have a visitor come to San Francisco, I want them to take home something that was designed or made by somebody local. I don't want them to, go away with something that was, designed in New York and has no connection to San Francisco. The second store we have is called Welcome Haight and Ashbury, and that's right at the corner of Haight and Ashbury, the center of the Summer of Love in 1967. That one we treat a little bit like a welcome center. So we try to promote the whole neighborhood there. We make our own maps that show all of the stores in the neighborhood, the stores, the restaurants, the bars. We try to have a welcome ambassador who hangs out just greeting people that are coming to the neighborhood, passing out the maps, giving directions. And in that store, we partner with an organization called San Francisco Heritage. Their mission is to preserve and protect San Francisco's unique culture and architectural history. So we give 10% of our sales from that store to that organization. Wow. And then our third store is called Welcome Castro. It's kind of the same concept as Welcome Haight and Ashbury. It is a welcome center for the Castro neighborhood, which is the LGBTQ plus center of San Francisco. In that store, we partner with different organizations like the Gay Lesbian History Museum, which is just around the corner from us, from Human Rights Campaign, where we try to promote the work of HRC. And so we do a lot of outreach, a lot of partnerships with that store. So that's kind of us in a nutshell.
That speaks to my heart. Like, I love that you give back, and it's a community of people that is often overlooked and is often bypassed, blocked, etc. So I absolutely love that you are doing that. It's incredible.
Yeah, the Welcome Castro store is our newest store, and we just opened that one about a year and a half ago. And we put together an assortment that celebrates somewhere over 70 LGBTQ plus artists, makers, and owned companies. So wow. Each one of the stores has kind of a unique assortment, that we're trying to curate. And that one I'm really proud of because it is a lot of marginalized, smaller brands that kind of found their home in our store, and we just love that. So.
God, it's so great. So I have like so many questions now. First, I'm going to go to which started first, the wholesale division or the retail? I'm assuming the wholesale division.
Wholesale started first. Yeah, I spent years working as in retail in a lot of different capacities. Through working with Macy's, with the Nature Company, Discovery Channel stores, Picture People. Those were all kind of my retail experiences. Then I kind of jumped over to the wholesale line, and I worked with a private label product development company where we developed products for like Starbucks. We did their City Series mugs. We did a lot of stuff for Target, Crate and Barrel, different kind of accounts like that. Then I decided I kind of want to get out on my own and do my own line. And after working on that Starbucks account, I realized that celebrating place is like a really underserved kind of thing. At that time, back in 2008, the only thing I was seeing were kind of low-end souvenirs. And I wasn't seeing anything that really spoke to me as a San Franciscan for San Francisco product. So we started San Francisco Mercantile with just like a dozen SKUs. I was working with the same factories that we did all the Starbucks mugs through. And from there, it grew to expanding it into California. We've tried some things with New Mexico and Arizona. Those didn't work out as well. And I'm kind of stopping trying to do other places because I just really want to focus on our world. I'm sure that there's people in, other communities doing, their community. And I think that's an important thing. We want to buy local. We want to support local. So that's my main focus right now is just keeping things more local.
The background that you have in retail, the Discovery Channel, that's major. And the fact that I've always called it regional. What is Starbucks? What did they call it?
The City Series mugs.
City Series. There isn't a lot of great stuff. And what is out, there is a lot of stuff out there, and it's usually crappy shot glasses and stuff you see in the airports. And it's not doesn't have like a lot of style. And Starbucks has always done such a great job with their regional price. So what a great stepping off point for you to be able to go and create your lines and then utilize the same manufacturers. Like that is fantastic.
Right. And it's like, I'm not putting down any of that cheap tchotchke stuff because there's a place for that. Exactly. Sometimes when you go, you want to bring all the office workers back, something just hideous. And so there's a market for that ridiculous souvenir. And I love that. But I think there's also a market for something that's better designed that has more of a local connection. And that's kind of what we're trying to go after.
So when you first launched the line, you said you had 12, 15 SKUs. Well, were they all the California Bear at first, or were they? You had the Poppy, you have the California Bear.
Yeah, we just today got our new catalog for 2024. I'm so sorry about mine.
Poor thing. I'm so sorry. Reach over and give you a cough drop.
We started with San Francisco. So the whole line originally was just San Francisco SKUs. And it was glassware and ceramics. Later on, we got into some T-shirts. It wasn't until my salesperson, Bob, came along. We used to work together at Discovery Channel stores.
Hello, Bob.
So Bob and I go way back to Discovery Channel days, and we both used to do a lot of traveling, buying stuff together, and we've always worked really well together. So Bob came and helped me. He was the first person to kind of come to the company after I started it, and he kept pushing me that we need a bear, and I just I couldn't think of something. It's like originally when we started, it was my art, and I just couldn't come up with something on my own. I started doing a lot of research, trying to see, is there something, what are other people doing? What's out there? What's unique? And stumbled across the sheet music cover. I was like, this is really kind of cool. I think this has potential. And so that's when we jumped into the bear hug, and rolled that out. And that's when we went from just being a little San Francisco line to being a little California line. So right now, I think we have somewhere around 400 accounts throughout California that we work with.
I honestly, like, I have such a love for your product line because, like I said, we built, when I was buying for a pharmacy, Burt's Pharmacy, we had 5 locations and we rolled out the regional California stuff. And I didn't really know because it's not like it's a tourist area. And I didn't know if you live in Newbury Park, are you going to love Newbury Park enough to buy a Newbury Park mug or California? And it was really surprising to see how well it did. And then, I know you sold Grow. I used to do Grow and Venice's merchandising, and she started to bring more and more. And I was like pushing for your line to bring that in because I'm like, it's perfect. It goes back, and she was in a very heavily trafficked. She was on Abbot Kinney, but even for stores that don't think that they have that regional thing, that it sells. And I love how well it cross merchandises with other brands, just because it has to me a great vintage feel. And obviously because of the artwork stems from a vintage music sheet, but it is such a phenomenal line. Like I said, your line is what made me love regional and building people's regional sections. And it's not something my background is, but it really made me love like building these regional stories. And your product was always like the core part of the story.
Thanks. Yeah, I think for me, it's like when we look at what we're developing, we try to keep in mind our local clientele, because at our San Francisco Mercantile store, I would say our business is split pretty much 50-50. We have a great holiday season because of all the locals that are coming in and supporting us. Great summer season because that's when all the tourists are in town. And so we try to make sure that it's that combination of local pride and just great product that celebrates, community. And since we've opened that store, like I said, we've got 150 artists and makers in that store. There are so many lines that have popped up and expanded on that same philosophy of local, celebrating local. Some of them are much more kind of inside jokish, which our locals totally get, but maybe the tourists don't quite get. And I love that combination of product, so that there's a little something for everybody.
Well, the fact that the community's supporting you so much is like super important. I mean, that's huge. Tell me a little bit about, like, now you've had your wholesale. How long did you have the wholesale going? It's obviously established. What point did you decide to open your store, and what location is San Francisco Mercantile in?
So it's in the Haight-Ashbury also. So I've got 2 stores in the Haight-Ashbury, San Francisco Mercantile and Welcome Haight-Ashbury. They're 2 blocks apart and completely different assortments. So Welcome Haight-Ashbury is very counterculture, hippie, Haight-Ashbury specific. I opened San Francisco Mercantile, I think it was right after the San Francisco gift show stopped. It just ended.
Missed that show.
And we didn't have a gift show anymore. And I just kept thinking it'd be nice if we had a little showroom that we could, have to show our buyers when we had appointments, which really didn't make a lot of sense to put together a whole showroom for an occasional buyer that we have in. But then I thought, why don't we just do the retail store? Because I've always wanted a retail store. And I wound up in the Haight because it was the only neighborhood that we didn't have an account conflict with. Every other neighborhood I had accounts already set. And if I went in and opened up my own store,
that's incredibly kind and very very professional, because there are a million companies that don't take that into consideration.
Right. So it was a neighborhood. It's just it's right over the hill from where I live. It's very close by, but it was a neighborhood that I never really went. I didn't, really know that much about it. I really wanted to go in the Castro at the time, but there were already accounts that I worked with there. And so we opened up San Francisco Mercantile 2016, I think it was. Mm-hmm. And found out that it was a really great neighborhood because there is that combination of, which I expected, that combination of local business and tourism. Totally lost my train of thought. What else?
Moving into Haight-Ashbury, your new store. Now I'll ask you a question now. So now that so I'm going to back up. Wholesale and retail are very different. So now you've had your hand in both now. So obviously it seems like a perfect transition for you to do that. So, but running a retail store and running wholesale business are very different. How did you have a small team. I'm like mesmerized on how you're tackling the two. And I can't wait to find out more about 3 and 4, but how did you balance your day, and what at this point in your wholesale division was your role? And then now what is your role in your new retail space?
So yeah, when we first opened up the first retail store, I pulled myself out of the wholesale business dramatically in order to get the retail store set up. And so I would say for the first few months, retail was where I was really focusing on my energy. And Bob was pretty much running the wholesale part of our business. I think that was still at the time where I was still doing most of the product development. A little bit after that, we brought in Cam, who's our graphic artist. He does all of our art and production now. I also partner with a lot of local artists and license their art on some of our products. So as we've grown, I've had to constantly kind of shift where I'm spending my time. Yeah. And it is kind of like juggling, it's hard to keep all the balls in the air at one time. I do find myself getting too sucked into one area and then something drops on the other side. But I would say over the last few years, we have gotten an incredible staff that really kind of makes everything run really well on its own. Each one of my 3 store managers, they do all the buying for their stores. So I pop in, a few times a week, just check in. How are things going? Just check on the merchandising. What do you guys think? What are you going to move around? But they handle it all. And I think that I could never have done this without having those key people who are running those kind of things. I also have a director of store operations, and he's constantly going between the stores. He mostly does a lot of personnel issues, because I'm not good at that at all. So I let him handle the HR part of our business. Bob really handles the wholesale. So it's we've learned how to kind of delegate things to everybody. So everybody kind of takes a piece of the pie and runs with it. Now I do spend, I think, the majority of my time just kind of overseeing everything, sitting at my desk, paying the bills, watching the invoices go back and forth, and starting new partnerships. Like I said, we started working with HRC. I'm also on the board of San Francisco Travel, because the travel industry is so important to San Francisco. I just really felt like they were mostly being represented by hotels, at the airports, airlines, and they didn't have people that were more like me, that are kind of more working front lines. We're out there, we're seeing people that are coming in, selling them things that hold memories to that trip. So I kind of wanted to represent kind of more of the retail portion with San Francisco Travel. So it's nice to be in that position now where I can start doing a lot of other things and working on trying to build relationships with other organizations that become really beneficial. But one thing I'm excited about is next month, we have the Dreamforce convention, which is Salesforce. It's the biggest convention that we have in San Francisco. It'll be setting up at Moscone Center. And so I'm working with Moscone Center and San Francisco Travel. We're going to be doing a pop-up San Francisco shop at Dreamforce, which will be really fun to be able to do kind of a fun little 3-day pop-up over there.
Yeah.
It's, doing those little things as kind of like that always gets me excited, is doing something new.
I love that. I've got to go back to your stores, because I'm still just like reeling right now that you've got what's going on. When you opened your store and you went to the design portion of it and the beginning merchandising of it, I'm assuming that is you're doing, like, how did you approach the design concept? And then are the other two stores kind of modeled after the first?
Mm-mm.
Of course not.
No, that would be too easy, wouldn't it? That would be the smart thing to do is, you kind of take your brand and kind of keep repeating it. No, when we designed the first store, there was a look that I wanted to go after. And I think it's like I wanted to have a little kind of an rustic urban, I guess.
Okay.
So the space that we moved into is a great corner space of this Victorian building. It's got kind of some bay windows in the front with some really nice glasswork on the top. When they remodeled, they had to remodel it to make it earthquake resistant. And there's these giant steel I-beams that run through the front of the building. And I love that look of this heavy iron I-beam that's just raw iron, next to all these Victorian details. And so we kind of tried to keep that theme kind of going throughout. So some of our wallpaper looks like concrete walls, and the fixtures all kind of pipe fixturing. And so I think it has a really nice cohesive look to it. Most of the colors in there are going to be white, gray, and orange, because orange is Golden Gate Bridge. And so I think it has a very clean kind of modern look. When you go to Haight-Ashbury, it's very, late 60s, early 70s, flower power.
Oh my God, love it. All I can think about is the deadheads and that bear walking through the daisies with the daisy faces. And I'm not even a deadhead fan, but I know that artwork.
Right. So, and again, setting up that store was a challenge too, because when I did that, I worked with our Merchants Association, which I'm on the board of that. And I went around and talked to every store. I said, how would you feel if I were to do this kind of welcome Haight-Ashbury and set up what we're calling as a welcome center for the neighborhood? I want to promote the neighborhood. I don't want to compete with anybody, but what I wanted to do is to give like a little taste of the neighborhood in one store. So, for instance, there's a little bit of a book assortment, and in there we have a sign next to books. It's like, love books, be sure to visit the Booksmith, and we give that address. A little bit of a tie-dye assortment, and it's like, hey, if you love tie-dye, you got to go see Love on Haight. If you're into the music, you've got to go see Amoeba. So we have all these signs that kind of promote all the other neighborhoods or all the other retailers in the neighborhood. But I tried to keep the assortment different from what everybody else has. So being that everybody kind of celebrates hippies, it was kind of hard to find that right assortment. And luckily, the one line that nobody was carrying is Natural Life.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Such a cute
Which
one.
is like, so that store is very much Natural Life. It's kind of boho hippie chic kind of thing. And so we do a lot of our own product development for that store. There's things I try not to carry, like tie-dye. I carry it in other things like tie-dye glassware, mugs, because we have this great tie-dye shop down the street that I'm real good friends with the owner. And so, we just try to make sure that what we're doing is unique and different from what everybody else is doing.
How about the third?
Oh, and then the third, yeah. So the third one, the nice thing about the third one was when I started working on this, it was going to be a partnership with the Castro Merchants Association and the Castro Business District. So we had met on this over and over again. Originally, they had this grant to do a pop-up, and the grant was to activate empty storefronts. And so the original concept was, let's take over this old Pottery Barn store that's at the corner of Castro and Market and turn it into this giant welcome center for 10 months. And then that's all the money we have. We have to go away. And we kept talking about it. And I was willing to work with them because it was like, yes, we need to activate storefronts because we have way too many vacant store spaces. It's hurting everybody's business to have empty stores. But at the same time, it's like, I can't create a whole new assortment and know how to have an exit strategy within 10 months. I just can't pull that off. And so I backed out of that and said, listen, we need to do this in a smaller and more sustainable way. So there was an empty space where Levi had just been. And that space was comparable in rent to what I'm paying in the Haight-Ashbury. It was a nice size. It's almost 2,000 square feet. It's actually bigger than the other stores. And Levi left all of their fixtures.
Love that. And they do fixtures right.
So it's a beautifully designed store. It's got kind of a tin roof ceiling. Levi has all these custom fixtures that are steel and natural wood. So I was able to utilize pretty much everything that they left there, kind of repaint a little bit. We repainted the back wall purple and the awnings purple so that we kind of branded a little bit. But in that one, it's a very beautiful store, and I just happened to be able to walk into it with somebody else's design, you know? So I'm really grateful to Levi. One of the executives popped in to see what we did with it, which I thought was really exciting. You know, it's like, thank you so much for leaving all this stuff. I know it would have cost you a fortune to get rid of it, but for a small business owner to, open up a store inexpensively, that was a really great thing.
Well, there are so many, like right now, I'm like, which direction do I go? First, I want to say that I love that how considerate you are of your neighbors, because like I said, that is not on the forefront of a lot of people's minds when they go into stores. They're more concerned about themselves versus overlapping and intruding in somebody else's business and livelihood. And you, because you are going and you're working with everybody and you're promoting everybody, you are really creating a community. And I've had this conversation. I just got off the phone or a call with the lady that they started the movement. Reps are local too. And yeah, retail and wholesale is a little biosphere in itself. And what I always say, everyone's always on their, soapbox about Amazon and Fair and whatnot. It's like, there's a place for that. But if we all don't support each other and we don't support the retail industry within our own communities and make them stronger, because you could be an amazing store and be the only storefront, but that's not going to be a destination. Like, you want to create a community and have your space, store, street, block, whatever, be a destination. And by creating community, you are doing that. And I think that's commendable. I mean, I think that's amazing. And my hope is that that's how retail starts to look, but it's definitely not the norm. The other thing that I can't get off the back of my head, because I'm a merchandiser, is when you opened your first store and you designed the fixtures and you obviously did the merchandising, how hard was it to step away and not micromanage it? Like, now that you're handing the keys over to somebody else and coming into the store and like, so what's happening with this? Why are we moving this around? Or did you have those moments? Or was it just like you just found a rock star that just took the ball around with it?
It took years. As you will ask anybody that works with me, I can be quite a pain in the butt because I do have I'm very headstrong. I want things done a specific way.
100%.
So it's hard for me to kind of back off and let people run with it. I would say over the last 2 years is when I'm finally at that point where I can kind of step back, and my manager at San Francisco Mercantile, and she is great. And we've got a really great associate, Diane, who is a wonderful merchandiser. And every week, both of them are brainstorming on what to move where. And every week I walk in and the store looks new and fresh. And I'm just like, they have it, So it's nice to know that store is just running so well. At Welcome Haight-Ashbury, that store doesn't need to move around very much because it's almost all tourists.
Yeah.
I can't get regulars to shop there at all.
Funny. Interesting.
I tried for the last few years. I bought, I think we had 15 or 18 Christmas trees throughout all of the windows and interior. They're skinny trees. And we did this massive Christmas setup in really bright colors and hot pink and purple and lime green and turquoise. And so it was bright. It was fun. And I still couldn't get locals to go in there and see what do we have that could be good gift giving stuff.
Well, so weird. Do you think because it says welcome in front of it that it's like this is only for tourists and like do you think that's what it is? That's interesting.
I think so, because I'm having that same problem at Welcome Castro.
Yeah, it might be.
I think that I probably branded it too much as a place for tourists to come in, and not a place for regulars. So I love this whole welcome concept. Years ago, we started off with a welcome center we did as a pop-up in Golden Gate Park for their 150th anniversary. And that was a huge success. It was really fun. We set up a container that we designed that opened up completely to an outdoor store.
Very cool.
It was a super fun project to work on. It was very successful. And so from there, that's what kind of led us to these other welcome things. But now I am taking a step back and kind of reconsidering, do I need to kind of rebrand this in a way so it's not so visitor center? Because we are so much more than that. So yeah, that's kind of a current thing I'm kind of doing a lot of thought about.
Speaking of Christmas, because you guys do some Christmas orders, what does holiday look like in all of these stores, starting with San Francisco Mercantile?
At Mercantile, I try to keep our assortment there more focused on San Francisco, California themes. So for instance, the main tree that we put up in the front of the store, it's all covered in flowers. And then it'll have all kinds of things that are San Francisco related. So I go through any kind of, bears and quail and California poppies and the sea life, anything that's kind of local animals, anything that kind of represents Chinatown or North Beach, so Italian kind of things, or the missions and more Mexican.
You can just, I'm just getting such chills right now. I'm like, this is like the merchandiser's dream.
So it's real fun. For me, that's my most favorite thing to put together is that one tree that represents all kinds of aspects of San Francisco. And then we've got fixtures all around the floor that are more unique ornaments, more kind of one-off, humorous kind of things. But we'll have, holiday kind of go from one end of the store to the other. So we kind of spread it out everywhere. At Haight & Ashbury, I described that a little bit, where we used really bright colors, hot pink, purple, lime green, and turquoise trees, where we did like a flower power tree, a rock and roll tree, trying to think. We did like a junk food tree. So it was more novelty, pop culture kind of thing. Castro, we did focus mostly on the LGBTQ community. So the main tree that we had in the front of the store is a silver tree that's all completely decked out. Rainbows.
The obvious.
Rainbows exhaust me. But
do you write Cody Foster's boob?
What's that?
You write Cody Foster and the boob and the penis and like all those. Why did I know?
We did like Cody Foster with all those. We did like a whole feminist tree. So it was all boobs and drag queens and lipstick and
oh my God, I love it.
Yeah.
Do you do men?
Which one?
The merman ornaments? Yes.
Hilarious. So that we have set up year round.
It's so funny. I interviewed Curious from Hermosa Beach owners yesterday, and he was talking about his tree and the merman. And I'm like, I go by that window when I work in Atlanta Market. I walk by because they have a full window in the hall off the parking lot. And I walk by that. I'm like, what the hell? They're the craziest things. But he's like, they sell insane. Like it's and the fact that you keep it up year round, obviously.
Well, I do, and I do keep an assortment of ornaments up year round at Welcome Castro. So all of the more LGBTQ focused ornaments are always available, along with that whole line of the merman. There's also like there's a trans mermaid. Then there's the whole there's the polka bear. There's a whole bear series of it. Anyway, there's a whole bear series. Yeah. So we carry a lot of that stuff, and it does really well. I think that we sell probably a couple pieces a day of those items. One of the things that I really love about the Welcome Castro store is the first year that we set up, during June, which is Pride in San Francisco, we were getting families coming in with their children who were kind of trying to find their tribe. Who are they? And they would come in, and the front wall at that time was all set up with all of the different LGBTQ plus flags, for trans, bi, pansexual, asexual, all of these different identities. And how many kids would come over and they would find, their whatever represented them. And they'd be so excited with their parents and their parents introducing them to this.
That.
I was it really touched me because, as a young gay boy, I didn't have that. How wonderful it would have been if my parents had been at a place where they could take me and say, let's look into this. How do you identify what,
I think
so there was really great.
I think so many gay and trans and the parents aren't supportive. So to hear that the parents are there and the whole family, it's like that support is so incredibly important. I love that you've given this place where that people feel safe and comfortable and welcome and part of the tribe.
Right. And that's really what we were going after in this space. The Castro historically has been known as being more of a gay white men's neighborhood, and trying to make sure that we transition that into a neighborhood where all of the LGBTQ plus people are welcome and represented in the store is, just super important. So, when you go inside of that store, you will find like a whole kind of family section and kids stuff. And, so we try to keep it kind of more family focused, I
know you wrote this book, right?
Love that book.
Yeah. I would say, because I mentioned it on social. They didn't know I work for Stephen Young. I do Stephen's Displays. And they sent me that. I'm like, I love this book. I love so much that you wrote this, especially, not to get political, but the whole book banning thing and all that. It's like, I love that publishers are still doing it. For people that are listening or like wondering what I just showed. Gibbs Smith did the P for Pride series, which is the same series they did Alice for Love, and they did E is for Easter and C is for Christmas. So they did a Pride book, which I absolutely love.
You were talking about community earlier, and I think that's really very important for retailers to really be thinking about that and building community. And the Castro has a really great merchants association, a lot of involvement there. Fabulosa Books, just down the street from us, they've been working on sending banned books to states where books have been banned. So we've been partnering with them to, get books together and raise funds to get the shipping done. And, they started this whole thing of looking for people. Would you like some of these books? And wherever they get a yes, great, we're going to ship them to you. So yeah, I think it's great.
I talked a few times to several people that are involved in their community in the government side. And I love hearing that you are part of, I think that sitting on committees within your own city, state, whatever, is so incredibly important to have a voice. So talk a little bit about that, because you sound like you are on a lot of boards.
Okay. Yeah, I think it was probably over the last 3 years or so that I've really been getting on more boards. I've been part of the Haight-Ashbury Merchants Association since we opened up the store there. And became a board member about 3 years ago or so. It's not as active as a merchants association as I'd like. It's just a matter of trying to set aside the time to get out and visit the different store owners and trying to get more cooperation. But we have done a lot of really great things with our merchants association. This last June, I don't know if you remember the line Laurel Birch. Laurel Birch was a big designer in the 80s and 90s. She did a lot of... Hold on, I'm going to show you something. So Laurel Birch, this is her art.
Okay,
so,
I know the artwork, those cats especially.
Yes, she did a lot of cats.
Cat Lady Lala. Oh my God, that's brilliant.
We're currently printing this. So along with wholesale products that we develop and manufacture, we also do all of our printing of apparel and tea towels and totes. So anyway, back to Laurel Birch. Laurel Birch was a designer in the 80s and 90s. She was really big. I was at Macy's when we put together Laurel Birch shops in all the stores. It was a really big deal. It was very exciting. I got a call or an email from somebody on the Laurel Birch team. And at first I thought it was kind of spam. I was like, I don't really quite get what this is. I thought Laurel Birch was gone. And then realized as I read the email that Laurel Birch actually lived in the Haight-Ashbury in the late 60s, early 70s. Oh. She had a rare bone disorder, and she had hundreds of broken bones in her lifespan. So she was in pain for much of her life, but she continued to paint. She was inspired by traveling, by women, very much women's, the energy of women really inspired her on a lot of her art. And so we worked with her daughter, Erin Birch, who is now the CEO of the company, to do an event honoring Laurel Birch and bringing her back into the neighborhood for the 50th year of Laurel Birch as a company.
Wow.
So we painted a mural on the side of our building. We got together about a dozen different stores. Each of them carried different Laurel Birch products. We did some maps. This that was, you can read it. Yeah. This was a map for Laurel Birch. And so we laid on there, all the stores that carried Laurel Birch, what they had, along with showing original art. And so that's one of the pictures of her.
Oh, my God.
We had this art walk where you could go and you could see a dozen different original Laurel Birch paintings. And it was just a really wonderful event. And I think that's where, when you're on boards, when you're working with other business owners in your neighborhood, your community, your city, it's so important because you can start building those relationships where you can call them up and say, hey, I've got an idea. You want to work with me on this? And that was a really wonderful event. I think it created a lot of great relations between a lot of the stores that worked together on this. A lot of people came in for it. It was a lot of fun. So
the map thing, I think, is brilliant. There's a store in I think, Kentucky, and she has a store called Women Owned Wallet. And it's all about empowering the female and female dollars, and it's all female artists and female graphic. And she created a map of all the women-owned businesses in Louisville. And I love it, just the support of other businesses. She did it just because she thinks it's important to support other businesses. But the fact that she has this map and it sends people, it's like, I feel like if more of these neighborhoods or pockets of areas did things like this in conjunction with each other, it just makes such a stronger community. And it gives it more of a destination feel for everybody to succeed and not just one store. And the fact that everybody, Curious was saying, they all really respect each other and the lines they sell, they all like kind of go to each other. I was thinking about writing this line, I just want to make sure that you're not writing it. It's like, it's all very, and I'm sure there's a lot of people listening to this, like, I would never do that, but it makes for a stronger retail community. And that I think in businesses to survive, I think nowadays when there is the Amazons and there is the fairs and whatnot, that it's important to keep, your dollars in your community. And the only way to do that is for you to work together as a community.
Yep. Yeah, I was going to show you, this is our welcome guide for the Welcome Haight-Ashbury. And that's the map. Yeah, that shows all the different merchants.
Yeah, that's a lot of businesses.
It's a lot of businesses. I need to update that. You said something that I thought was really important. I was going to say, about partnering with your other store owners. When I opened up Welcome Castro, that was one thing that was really important, is that there were two stores in particular. Both of them I used to sell to. One of them I still do sell to. The other one has a ton of lines. One of them is called Cliff's Variety Store, and Cliff's Variety sells everything from nuts and bolts, thread and needles, to soaps and whatever, sequins, wigs, everything you need as a dry queen. And then the other one is Local Take, who again has a concept like I do at Mercantile, where it's really focused on local artists and makers. And so the one thing I wanted to make sure that when we opened up Welcome Castro, it was a completely different assortment than either one of those two stores. So I worked with both of those store owners to find out which one of these lines are you carrying. So I went through my whole vendor list of what I had over at Mercantile and lined out anybody that they were carrying so that I wouldn't carry those. And then when I went to the show, I would find some things that I thought were interesting, like a sock line I thought was really fun. And I checked in with Cliff first. Hey, do you carry this line? She was, oh, yeah, I do. I wouldn't recommend that, but you might want to try, something else. So
Wow.
it's a really nice, when you have that partnership with your other business owners, you end up each having a unique store assortment that doesn't have overlap. And I think it really helps when you have your guests that are coming in and shopping all the stores to really find unique products in every store. So I highly recommend for business owners to get involved in their merchants association, build strong relationships with especially the stores that have the most overlap with you.
Yeah.
And because I think it's incredibly beneficial for both of you and to work together to help, grow your business together. It's like, business is not like a pie, it doesn't get cut up. When one more person comes in, it doesn't get a smaller slice. As long as you do it in a way that's going to attract more people to come in, that pie keeps getting bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we need to look at that, not be afraid of competition, but embrace that the more you can bring, the more desirable your area is going to be for people to come and shop.
Ashley, who is the founder of the Boutique Hub, which is a huge apparel portal that really works mostly with retailers that some do gifts, but by far and large, it's all apparel. Her whole philosophy is community over competition. And I think that's so important. I mean, I grew up, I had stores at Fred Siegel and we were all under one roof and it was talk about competition. And it's like, Fred had told me a long time ago, like, stop looking in the rearview window, stop worrying about what everybody else is doing. Just look at what you're doing and just keep your eye on the prize and keep on working on your store and stop looking around, but at what everybody else is doing, because in a venue like that, it's very hard. And I get extremely competitive. I'm not going to lie. But it is, I understand this strength in numbers for retailers. And like, I keep calling the retail industry a little biosphere because it is. And stores are closing all the time. And, it's really important our industry stays strong. And I have to ask you, because it's all over the news and because I'm sure like you hear it all the time, is the climate of San Francisco and how is it affecting your stores and how are you dealing with it?
San Francisco has had the slowest recovery from COVID of, I think, any city. And that's mainly due to workers downtown doing remote working and not coming back in. And so our downtown is really suffering the worst. Union Square, which used to be the center of shopping, is pretty much decimated.
Wow.
Macy's will be closing its flagship store here next year. We already had Nordstrom went out of business. The whole San Francisco center pretty much closed down. So many shops have closed. Anthropology left. All these
I opened for.
Yeah. So downtown is probably the worst area. The areas that have done best are the neighborhoods. So because people are doing more working from home, if they're living in San Francisco, they're at least leaving their house once in a while, going to their neighborhood, getting something to eat, doing a little shopping down there. So for us in the Haight, we're one of the neighborhoods that recovered really well. And if you look at our sales tax revenue, we're doing pre-pandemic levels of sales tax in sales.
Excellent.
So that business has been doing really well. Castro is still a big problem because there's so many empty storefronts in the Castro. And our big important business would have been the Castro Theater, which is currently closed, going through a renovation. So they're restoring the whole thing. They're renovating it so that they're removing the seats and adding this floor that can be extended out
Wow.
and seats in or retract and have standing room so that they can do more music venues and all different kinds of things. So it's not just a movie house anymore. That'll open up next year. But having that closed has been a really tough year for all of us in the Castro. There's just not the draw to come there that there was. So I'm hoping that starts to turn around. The other thing that's been really has really affected everybody's business is tourism in San Francisco is way down. This year, we've known this for many years that we don't have conventions on the books this year. There's one main convention, which I mentioned earlier, the Dreamforce convention, and that's about it. Conventions, and I never realized how important conventions were to our businesses out, in other neighborhoods, because I always think of conventions as really benefiting the businesses around the convention center in Moscone downtown. So you've got the hotels, the restaurants down there. But when they have any time off, they're out into the neighborhoods to check stuff out.
Yeah.
And they're not here, and so they're not checking us out. So you can see it in our numbers. We've dropped quite a bit. Next year is still going to be a little tough. There still aren't very many conventions. So in 2026 is when we start seeing a little more of a pickup there. So it is tough. San Francisco has just a ton of vacant storefronts. There's so many different projects going on, trying to reinvigorate the neighborhoods, to fill empty storefronts, to get businesses to grow and expand and take some risks. And that's kind of why I expanded to Welcome Castro. Yes, it's like, okay, the Castro's empty. Now's the time. Let's get in there. Let's see if we can add to, filling some space. So, I feel like it's all going to be improving. It's just getting through like the next year or so that it's still going to be quite a challenge.
Yeah, I know my girlfriend worked for the foods that closed down, the big one. And she's like, it just, part of it was the homeless situation. And, I think when people talk about it, it's like homeless is everywhere. I mean, it's everywhere. So you're going to go pockets of LA where it's out of control. And then you go 5 minutes away and you're in Beverly Hills and it's like, there isn't. So it's not, when people listen to this and you think about visiting San Francisco, it is not everywhere. It is just like in your neighborhoods and cities, it's there. But it is such a shame about the empty storefronts. It's like it's so hard on everything. I mean, it's sad. It makes me so sad because I would go to San Francisco when I was first starting at Fred Segal. My boss was Michael Campbell, who had Fred Segal Finery, and he would take me to the Moscone Center to the gift show there. And it was mandatory. We went and saw Filamento. We went and saw X, Y, and Z. And I don't know if you've heard that. I interviewed Iris on the podcast, and she closed around, I guess, right before 9/11, right after 9/11. But San Francisco to me has always been this place to go shopping and get inspired by other retailers, because there are some amazing retailers there. And even my husband and I went there. We were going to go see Barbara from Daisy's to go talk to her we were doing live or filming in the stores after we've interviewed people. And we were going to see Barbara in Alameda. And I'm like, let's go drive over the bridge and we'll have lunch in San Francisco. And it's such a lovely area. I have such fond memories of San Francisco, and I have such a space in my heart for it that I love that you have 3 businesses and you are so involved in the community and growing, and you're playing the long game. Like it will, the theater opening later and like things coming back to the city, it's really about a long game. And it's like, I really love hearing that you are really in it and really committed to it, both the community as well as, the aspect of business.
Yeah, it's San Francisco it's in a tough patch right now. But I think that we're also kind of overcoming that obstacle of the doom loop, which national news was just
good Lord,
like crazy. It's like, and we tend to be the one that the news likes to jump on of the crazy San Francisco. Look at they can't do anything, and so it comes from a little bit of truth. Yeah, there's a lot of crazy people in San Francisco, Trust me.
A lot of crazy people. I live in Oregon now. There's a lot of crazy people here.
Yeah. But there's a lot of talent here and a lot of creativity. And, there's so many of us that are trying really hard to bring the city back to, a time that, was much better than it is right now. And I think that we're going to get there in time. It's just going to take us a little while to recover. I'm looking forward to that, already. When I'm in one of the stores, my favorite thing is to talk to people who are visiting, find out where they're from and what have they seen in San Francisco and are they having a good time, and then recommend something that they maybe didn't even know about. Like, why don't you go take a walk on one of our staircase streets? And they're like, what's that? I'm like, well, it's a street where houses are built on either side. There's no road and you have to walk through stairs to get to the houses. And it's really unique and fun. And it's just fun to point out those quirky little things about San Francisco that makes us unique and, celebrate our city. So
I always ask everybody a question at the end is because you're a designer, you are a retailer, and you are a manufacturer. How do you stay inspired? Like, how do you go pre-show, pre-creating the new line, pre-going into buying for 3 stores? Like, how do you stay inspired?
One of my early jobs, when I first started working for Macy's, I was an assistant buyer. I was a junior assistant buyer in the trim a home buying office. And that's the Christmas buying office. And I had just gone through the management training program. I was going to be a, good little, executive. And so this was my little stint of being an elf. And we would go around and set up all the Christmas shops and all. I think at that time there was maybe like 30 Macy's. And that was before we merged with Bolex. And this would have been back in the late 80s, early 90s, maybe.
Wow.
And the buyer, his name was Valerie Belch. And Valerie Belch was this very tall woman. She was like Auntie Mame, if you ever see the movie Auntie Mame.
Uh-huh.
And she would be so funny. She would have these green, like cat eye glasses that had holly at the end and like little red rhinestones. And she'd wear this leopard coat she would call Kitty. And every day of her life was Christmas. And we would get samples in, and all of a sudden we'd unpack a sample. She'd, oh, isn't this delicious? And she'd pull out this little snowman. Look at his face. It is so great. And I carry her with me all the time. When I just love the passion that she had for everything that she did. And I try to carry that spirit with me every day. Because I think every day it's a new adventure. I'm constantly doing something new, whether I'm working at the stores or the warehouse, and, we're printing different things all the time and working with different people. And I just look forward to, the diversity of what we do as a job. I think, we're pretty special to be able to work with so many, talented people, all the different lines that we get to work with, all of the design influences. I just think, you kind of absorb it all and just get inspired by everything that you do and see. Walking through the supermarket and there's new packaging on this food. Oh, this is cool. Interesting colors that they chose. I said, you look for the little details and things. So that's nice.
That is the best way to end this interview. I thank you so much. I love talking to you, like your story and what you're doing, I will say, like, you and Iris, like, listening to, like, it's there too. This is now one of my favorite interviews. You're very inspiring. And I thank you for sharing your knowledge and the time that you spent with us, because I know the retailers, like, I get all the time stopped in the shows, like, we love the podcast. We're learning so much from other retailers that, every day we learn something new from a different retailer in the show. And it's like, the retailers have been so incredibly kind with giving up just information that, makes all of us stronger. So, I really am appreciative of you telling us everything that you're doing and being so open and talking about, like, everything you're doing. I can't thank you enough.
Well, I appreciate you talking with me. It's been a lot of fun.
Tell everybody your socials and where they can find you and any information on you that you want to drop. We'll also have the information in the show notes, but just so if anyone wants to write it down right now.
My socials.
Instagram?
Yeah, we have that.
Okay. What's your Instagram account?
Okay. I'm the old guy in the company. I don't pay attention to a lot of that. So yeah, I think there is, I think maybe it's like San Francisco Mercantile Store, Shop San Francisco Mercantile. I don't know. But we have a website. Yeah, there's sfmercantile.com is our website. We do have Facebook and Instagram for all three of the stors. I'm sorry. You can find it, I'm sure.
I'm gonna have you.
Cool.
I'm gonna have you ask one of the young ones and give you the information and send it to me so I can link it in the show notes so people can find you because we know no one's going to spend the time searching for it. I just know people are like they're all too instant and want to just like click it and go.
Okay. I'll find it out for you.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon, and I will see you at the summer shows hopefully.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thanks.